Hey everyone, it is Jamie Jill right here again at Madlit Musings. And today I have a debut with Revell Publishing author Nicole Miller with us. Hi, Nicole.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you. Now is this like your debut novel too, or is it just your debut with Revell?
This is my debut novel. Yes, it
Okay.
is. And it's just been an amazing experience. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, for readers who don't know who you are, I'm looking at your bio right now, and you live in Southwest Washington State. You got
Yes,
two sons. You've got horses, ducks, dogs, cats, guinea pigs, and chickens. Don't forget the chickens.
yes, yes. Animals and children, that is the story of my life.
Yes. And horses are really a central part in your life because your bio even says you were like Miss Teen Rodeo Washington. So
Yes.
that's
I
cool.
did everything from 4-H to showing to, I mean, studying them. I studied horse genealogies because I'm a bit of a nerd, and all of that too. Like even as
Interesting.
and it's just, yeah, they've been constantly there and just constantly a passion.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And I rode a horse a few times growing up. My friends say I fell off it. I say I was bucked off it. So I'm gonna go with my version just because it sounds more dramatic. But either way, a turkey flushed and scared the horse. So whether the horse sidestepped and I came off or I flew over its head, which is what I personally remember. That's
Sounds,
my experience with horseback riding.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that is the like true test. So now you're like a tried and true, cowgirl
Right.
because you
Yes.
survived it and you dusted yourself off and you're
And I
ready to go.
got back on. I got back on,
Yep, that's
which my friends are kind of like, you are really not good at this. And I'm like, no, I'm a natural. Haven't you ever
everyone
watched
falls
Man
off
from
the
Snowy
line.
River? I grew up watching like The Man from Snowy River and Return to Snowy River, and I was like, I'm gonna be Jim Craig's wife someday. It's just gonna happen. Move over, Jessica. And it didn't happen.
Oh, we all have those things. And
We
sometimes
do.
they don't. So
We
that's
do.
okay.
All right. So living in southern Washington State. Are you a native to Washington then? Like you
Yes,
born and
I
raised?
am. I've been here most of my life. I lived a while in the Portland, Oregon area too, but still really close. And
Hmm.
I just love the Pacific Northwest. I
Yeah.
just even the ups and downs of the weather, but it's
Hmm.
been the home my whole life.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love Washington State. It's super cool. I was out there a few times. And when it wasn't raining,
yes,
it was especially nice.
absolutely. Yes, it makes such a difference. We're very used to the mud, and just like the water all of the time. And that is probably the trickiest
Hmm.
thing with chickens and ducks. The ducks are the
Right.
only ones that don't care that it's wet and rainy most of the year. They love it. They're the happiest little creatures and they will just like jump in all the
Yeah.
ponds and just quack and be so happy. They're a good reminder about
Yeah.
like joy and even like the weather. But yeah, for the horses it's always interesting with all the muck and mud and blank
Oh,
all
yeah. I'm sure that's gotta be a joy of being a horse owner.
that.
Well, you bring your love for horses, though, into your debut novel. So, your debut novel is called Until Our Time Comes. It's a novel of World War II Poland. And there's a woman on a horse on the front cover. So, do explain, because that is not typically a World War II cover.
Yeah, so this story is based on true events of the Janów Polaski Arabian horse farm in eastern
Mhm.
Poland. And Poland, of course, experienced a lot of turmoil in over all of its history, but
Oh,
especially in
right.
World War. And a group of the staff at this farm worked really hard to make sure they could save the horses because World War I had pretty much decimated the population. And so
Hmm.
yeah, this story follows an American horse trainer who happens to be in Poland, and a British spy who comes to her aid. And it follows their occupation and the resistance that comes
Hmm.
during all of World War II, and then the eventual escape and rescue of these horses. So lots of ups and downs and lots of facing difficult decisions throughout it all.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so take us a little deeper into that because typically when you're thinking World War II, you're thinking the escape of human beings, the escape of families to other countries, and you don't typically go, oh, the animals. What about the animals? It's such an interesting angle. And so tell me, why were the horses important enough to really put your lives on the line for them?
Yeah, so this particular breed of Arabian horses had been cultivated and bred over, hundreds, if not like 1,000 years, and
Okay.
was a very distinctive bloodline and very highly valued and highly treasured. So treasured that even some of the horses were famous enough across Europe to be recognized on sight by anyone who was maybe in the horse
Wow.
interested in horses. That was the like more
Yeah.
culture of the time than
Uh-huh.
maybe probably wouldn't recognize a horse by name as a society. But it was more like they were like a piece of the culture, more like a piece of
Hmm.
art, so to speak. And so, when
Okay.
how do you preserve a culture and in the midst of a war?
Yeah.
What value do you put on like a sculpture or piece of art? But these horses were, in our care, they don't
Hmm.
necessarily survive on their own in the wild, the same way that maybe a herd of Mustangs might in the US or something like that. So there's a burden on the characters and on us as, as humans to protect the helpless, because they
Right.
are and we are, their caregivers. And so I play with that a lot in the book because, what is the responsibility of someone to save a horse like over a human life or
Hmm.
like how do you wrestle with that? And so that's something I explore a little bit because,
Interesting.
it's on us to make sure that we take care of these creatures that, have been put on our care.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, and it's biblical too, because we were told to take care of that which God has put man over. So that's part of it too. But yeah, I guess you're looking at this specific breed too being so much a part of a culture. It was part of saving the identity of Poland and its people, I would assume too.
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of pride in these horses. And you see that throughout Europe. There's a lot of horse breeds that are particular and treasured by individual countries. And so they become icons in a way, maybe the way
Mm,
that Mustang is part of the American West, and things like that. So Poland was very proud of this, and the facility itself was run by the state of Poland. And so again, it was
okay.
very emphasized, and some of these horses ended up in the cavalry and were fighting in the war itself,
Wow.
early on against tanks and jeeps and
Yeah.
trucks, and the other things. So yeah.
It is kind of interesting when you think about World War II because they were not long out of World War One, where so much was horse
Yeah.
driven, literally. And then you've entered this war where it's like the old is colliding with the new at the same time as the world is colliding.
Yeah, it was a harsh, I think, reality too, and that's why I think the Blitzkrieg was so brutal. Is
Mm,
Poland was not quite prepared for what came in the form of, planes and tanks and machinery and guns, and just the advances that happened between World War One and World War Two
right.
were just astronomical. And so, yeah, I mean, there were many horse dependent features of armies, and the soldiers needed everything from pulling wagons and supplies. Even the Germans had a lot of horse driven components to it, fewer than say Poland and other countries that were involved. But yeah, I mean horses were still pretty prevalent in this conflict,
Yeah,
even as much as previous wars.
right, right. Well, and I'm sure the horses probably like, I mean, I don't want to be gross or anything like that, but I've heard too, and I think it's on the back of your book about like people would steal them just for food. Like they would slaughter them for food and survival.
Yeah, I mean, wars, we have no idea, I think in a lot of especially the Western world of what sort
Hmm.
of hard decisions you'd have to make. And so in certain areas, especially toward the end of the war, there were towns where there were horses of these, distinguished breeding and high value that
Hmm.
the townsfolk would try to rise up and argue that they needed food more than the horses needed to
Life.
be.
Yeah.
And that is, I think that's also a very difficult moral quandary to consider
Yeah.
and wrestle with and understand. And like again, it's just the realities of war and the brutality of war. And those are just things that like sometimes just don't enter into your mind until like really.
No.
So yeah, tough things. But the book isn't quite that heavy, I don't think. It
I was
still
gonna
is.
say, I was gonna say, we just went heavy really super fast, and this
Yeah.
is a very dark World War II novel. The death and destruction and salvation of Polish horses. Okay, it's not quite where she was going with this, but you know, Jamie, I just take things to the dark first.
I mean, it's okay.
So to lighten things up a little bit, there is romance in this too. It's not just a strictly historical World War II novel about the plight of the horse. But there's also romance involved too, correct?
Yes, yeah, I'm a romance junkie. I couldn't write a book, even during World War II without some pretty good romance in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the two main characters certainly wrestle with again their own priorities and like their
Hmm.
conflicting goals of, should you get someone safe and out of harm's way, or do you, risk it all to save the horses? So yeah, lots of good romance throughout.
That's good because then people will really want to pick up this delicious novel. The love of horses, the love of romance, and World War II. I mean, it's kind of like the trifecta right now for fiction,
I mean, I
I
hope so.
think.
I set out to write something I would want to read, so that was
Hmm.
up with because I'd read every like horse book I could ever find as a kid,
Yeah.
and I wrote this one way back when I was 15 years
Really?
old. The first, like, yeah, it was one of I wrote one manuscript before this, and it was more of a contemporary horse trainer sort of saga.
Hmm.
But this one was really the first thing that like really took hold and really just kind of stuck with me. And I've rewritten it probably 7 or 8 times over the
Oh,
years. Like,
sure. Yeah.
so it's taken a lot of different forms and evolved
Hmm.
a bit, and I would write other books in between and come back to this one and all of that. But yeah, this one is
That's
just
really cool. So it really is kind of like the book of your heart, like your first writing foray.
yeah, I think so. And I mean, it really like it came to me at a time when, horses again have always been my passion, but also as
Hmm.
World War II history, and like this like little known story was like a side mention in a biography about a famous Arabian stallion. And that Arabian stallion is like distantly related to the horse I have now. And so like it all kind of came full
Oh,
circle. And
wow.
really cool thing that really just, yeah, I couldn't let it go.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you came about this story because this is definitely not something most people are familiar with when they're thinking World War II. So tell us a little bit about how you even found out about it.
Yeah, so again, it was this tiny mention in an anthology of famous Arabian horse stallions and horses throughout history. And like this one just latched on to me, and I'd always loved World War II history, and I'd gotten to meet and interview some veterans that
Hmm.
my parents knew, and that was a really cool thing. And so it really just like brought it all together. And yeah, like again, it like took shape, and there were lots of different iterations of it and the way
Yeah,
it um, but I just couldn't let this one go because it seems so fascinating. Again, the idea of saving horses in the midst
right.
of bombings and, invasion and then survive under occupation. And there's a couple more books about this now. There's a book called The Perfect Horse by Elizabeth Letts. And it was a pretty popular book, but it's a nonfiction retelling or it's a nonfiction account of this story and then kind of a corresponding
Okay.
storyline in
Hmm.
Austria of some other horses from the Spanish riding school. And
Yep.
so some really cool like events that like took place. And so it's becoming a little bit more well known, but at the same time, the Poland component of it, I think, is even
Right.
featured. But I've had Arabian horses my whole life and I love
Hmm.
Arabian horses. And so like this just like I couldn't, yeah, this story just like wouldn't let me go.
Wouldn't let you go. That's awesome. Yeah, it is interesting when you talk about Polish horses. Poland is not the country that pops into my mind. Like you mentioned Austria, I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And there's other countries that I associate with horses and breeding and that type of thing. And Poland was not really on my list.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And again, like I nerd out about these things. Like there's
Uh,
different variations of Arabian horses, like Egyptian and Spanish and
right.
Crabbit, which is the UK variety. And so like
Okay.
there's a lot of really unique, distinctive characteristics from one to the other. And so like I've just studied that throughout the years and had different Arabian horses and I knew all of their lineage. And again, total nerd over here, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay. So earlier you mentioned, I don't know if we were recording yet or not, but you mentioned something about studying horse genealogy. So
Yes.
in my brain, I'm thinking ancestry.com for horses. Am I accurate in that? Or
It totally is. So all of the breed associations essentially keep those registries
right.
as like documents that are, available. So like I'm a member of the Arabian Horse Association. And so like
Okay.
I can go in and put my horse information in and then pull up their parents like lineage. And so then you can kind of follow
Interesting.
horses. And like I would get the Arabian Horse magazines, like there's a lot of
Hmm.
different breed magazines. And I would look at the pictures of like their ancestors, or I would buy old copies of those breed magazines and find pictures of like ads placed for those stallions or those mares forever ago. And so
That's
I've got like
crazy.
my horse that I've had for 20 something years. I've got a picture of him and his great grandsire, so his great grandfather,
Hmm.
and like
Hmm.
they almost look identical. It's the cutest thing. So again,
That
like
is so fascinating.
horses too. So
Yeah, I love that. And you said your horse has some linkage to
yes, yeah. So
these specific horses?
he's the descendant of that farm in Poland. So yeah, he also, came from this like
Yeah.
life story in some respects. So
So
yeah.
there's definitely a personal angle to this book too.
Yes, for sure.
I love it. Okay, so tell me this then. You found out your horse had lineage to them after you started writing or before you started writing about the story?
I think it was after.
Okay.
It was a little bit of a like fun
I
surprise.
was to say,
Yeah, and I knew he because I don't think I didn't own him at the time. Like he
okay.
was born at the barn that I worked at in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And and he was also abandoned by his mother, and so we bottle fed him, like the staff, all helped and bottle fed him.
Oh.
He ended up being just the like sweetest horse that would follow everyone around and love humans quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a little like scrawny runt, so to speak,
Oh.
very like lovable. And I didn't know I would go up to end up owning him,
Mm-hmm.
but it worked out well. And yeah, he's just been, I mean, I've had him throughout college and getting married and having kids and all of that too. And
That's
it's just
so great. I love it.
well,
I love animals that have that long life longevity, because then they really become such a part of the fabric of who you are and your family and just your own personal history.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's been fun, the kids getting to grow up with them and know them and,
Mm-hmm.
just taking pictures, with the newborn and my horses, when my newborn shoots were definitely with my horses, my senior pictures were with my horses, my maternity
Yes, yes.
horses, all that good stuff.
I think
Babies.
I remember seeing on Facebook your maternity pictures and then one of your newborns. And I was like, okay, mine weren't that cool.
The horses just add to it. Doesn't have to be
They
anything more.
really do.
They're good props.
There's something about a horse that's just so majestic and just like photographic. It's like, wow, that's so cool. Okay, so we have the horses, we have Poland, we have World War II, we have a romance. Now, I'm reading the back cover here, and it says you have the American horse trainer is Adia Kensington, and she's working at the stables in Poland. And then we have Major Brett Conway. Now, is he an American major, or is he British, or is he Polish, or?
He's a British spy, and yeah, he's
Okay.
there in Poland to be reporting on troop movements and other sort of whispers, especially
Hmm.
with being close to Russia and the Eastern Front. So happens to be there. Also happens to be a former horse person. So
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily conflict with his own values to try to help the horses as well. And then
Yeah.
of course the that American horse trainer is a little bit intriguing as well. So wants to
Well,
help out, wants to help her and gets caught up in it all.
yeah, I think it's great. This is exciting. So the book comes out in July, if I'm correct. And are there more books in the works then, or is this one of those first books that we're going to see how it does and how readers react?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those first ones. See how it goes. This one stands alone.
Hmm.
And I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Horses are a part of all of the books that I do want to write. It's just
Hmm.
intrinsically linked, I think, with how my
Yeah.
brain. and creatively too. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see where it goes from here, but I'm certainly excited to hear what people think of it and just the feedback and from readers and all of that.
Absolutely. Well, the book is called Until Our Time Comes, a novel of World War II Poland. It's published by Revell Publisher. It releases July 2nd. In fact, as we're recording this, it's 70 days, 9 hours, 9 minutes, and 38, 37, 36 seconds away. You have a timer on your website. I love that.
It keeps me on my toes because it
Yeah.
doesn't that far away.
Oh, no, and it comes really, really fast. So readers, as you're listening to this, make sure you go out and pre-order the book because honestly, if you are a horse lover and you love horse fiction, I'm trying to think, but I don't think there's a whole lot of historical horse fiction within at least the Christian market. And so we definitely need to support Nicole and her stories. So get your pre-orders in. That's a
Thanks.
plug.
Yeah,
Pre-order.
that'd be amazing.
That'd be great. And then you are a Revell published author. So that means Baker Bookhouse will have it on pre-order for 40% off and free shipping.
Absolutely. Such a good deal.
It is. It's a really great deal. Well, is there anything else our readers should know about you or where to find you and follow you, etc.?
Yeah, my website is NicoleMillerWriter.com. And you can find my links to Facebook and Instagram there. Those are the best places to find me. I do have a newsletter that you can sign up to get kind of the latest news and updates. But yeah, I just appreciate, you and this time and
Absolutely.
definitely grateful for all the readers to check out that book if they're interested.
That sounds interesting to me. I think I'm going to check it out. So, Nicole, it's so great to finally meet you and talk in person, even though we've been haunting each other's social medias for a while. So, this is exciting. And welcome to the Baker Publishing Group family.
Thank you.
So, we
Appreciate
call our Revell authors our Bethany House sisters and brothers. So, welcome to the family.
it. I'm so appreciative.
You have a wonderful day, and hopefully, we'll have you back in the future.
Absolutely, would love it.